My name is Lars Jakob Ove, and I'm Head of Product here at itslearning. I'm really happy to be here to present to you all today. I'm really happy to see there are so many people interested in about itslearning, what we are doing, and how we support hybrid learning. My main goal of today is to talk about this learning roadmap, what you can expect to come both short-term after the summer, but also more long-term. And that is after the summer. But first, what I would like to do is, I know that some of you here today might not know everything about itslearning, know exactly what itslearning is. So I would like to spend just a few minutes to talk to you about what itslearning is, where we come from, and how we think about itslearning. So we do consider itslearning what we call a full-strength learning platform, and has since the very beginning, more than 20 years ago, been meant and designed and been built to support the core workflows of our teachers. And by this, we mean that it has all the workflows and features that you need to support a great hybrid teaching and learning experience. Teachers can plan, engage, assess, and give students the opportunity to reflect and take ownership over their own learning. To meet this end, our visual reports and other tools show teachers and students progress and show them the attainment. And this helps us, gives teachers the understanding they need to make sure that every student reach their full potential. And all of this is provided in the context of a learning platform designed to operate in what we call the interconnected classroom, where basically everything, our goal is to give you as a teacher everything you need to help the students, to do the teaching, help the students reach their full potential. And we have deep integrations with all the productivity suites and the things that you use every day in the school, like Microsoft Office 365, Teams, SharePoint, and Google, if you use those tools. We do also have simplified single sign-on systems that work with many different authentication systems across Europe. And if you want to, you can even use your Google or Office 365 credentials to log in. We, of course, also work with dozens of different school management systems and student information systems, which means that at the start of the term, everything is set up ready to go for you. Users, courses set up, and which saves you time to just get on with the learning and teaching. And also we support many national and international APIs across Europe and the world that gives us the option to give you plugins and extensions and seamless integrations with the different tools you'll be using and support different ways of teaching and learning. All of this just points back to what our main goal with itslearning is, and that is to provide you with the pedagogical tools, the methods, the content, and the workflows that you need as a school owner, that you need as a school administrator, or you, more importantly, you as a teacher need to make sure that every student can reach their full potential. And I've said that a few times now, students reach their full potential, because in the end, that's what matters. We are here to make sure that the students get the teaching and can reach their full potential. So just that was a few words on where we're coming from. Now, moving on to, let's say, the main talk of the day, and the roadmap, and let's say where we are going. But before diving into the details, I want to talk a bit about how we understand the roadmap and what the roadmap is, because we know that many different people have different understandings of what the roadmap is. To us, we see roadmaps as directional. They are a storytelling tool. It gives you the story of the direction we are taking the product. It shows, more importantly, it shows which problems itslearning is solving for you, as opposed to, let's say, the specific features we are delivering. And as we all know, a problem may have many different solutions, many different ways of approaching to solve that problem. And the best way, we think, for you to have success is that we can support you by finding the best solution to those problems. And this is a continuous process where we learn, adapt, and adjust our offerings and our solutions to what you are telling us is important. We think that a great product is created and defined in collaboration with the users and customers. And this means that we don't necessarily have all the answers, all the solutions 1 year in advance. We don't plan for long-term developments. we are agile, and we need to shift to changes in the circumstances. And as Steve just mentioned, and we all know, a very good example of this is the year that we have been through. There's no way around that this last year, the last 14 months, have had a massive impact on the way we work. We all felt it. The pandemic led to closed offices for us, but more importantly, it led to closed schools for many of you. And many of you had to quickly adapt to new ways of learning and teaching. And it's been really important for us to kind of adjust our plans to reflect this new reality that we all live in. For us, it meant dialing back on some of the things that we were planning and some of you might have been expecting to see by now. And focus more on changes that would better support this new hybrid situation. And one example here is how we work closely with our partners in Google and Microsoft to give you the option to embed Team and Google meetings directly inside itslearning to support teaching from home and learning from home. And it also meant that we had to prioritize some more technical tasks to make sure that you had a flawless experience in using itslearning. And Lynn, Veronica will talk more about that in a little while. So what can you expect to see in the rest of this presentation? Well, what I'm going to do is to give you a high-level overview of how itslearning continues to evolve to support you and your needs, both inside and outside the classroom. A lot of what you will see, you can expect to see over the next few months and ready for what we call back to school, while other improvements will maybe have a more long-term approach. As I talk you through some of these developments, you will also see indication of the timeline of when you can expect to see these things. And again, some will be relatively short-term, others will be represented as in research. That means we are now working with you, our pilot customers, doing research, which you will also learn more about throughout this convention, how we work on this. But we are working to find the best possible solution. I'll also keep this on a relatively high level so you can see what we're working on. And then again, you'll have a chance to dive into some more of these details during the convention. But okay, enough about that, and let's move on to the roadmap. So before we dive into details, I also want to show you some of what you might call the big rocks, or the main areas which we are working within. These, of course, do not represent everything we are doing, but they give you a sense of background on what our high-level priorities are and what the most important areas for us to focus on are at the moment. And if you look at this, we have split this into, let's see, maybe 3 main areas that we're working on. The first of these represent the core tools and the core workflows. And these are the tools that you, as a teacher or administrator, use every single day, the things that is most important for you. It is also not just the tools, but the processes that support you in the work. And it also includes mobile support. Basically, itslearning on the go. Many of you use, particularly among your students, use itslearning on the phones. So these are about the core tools and core workflows that you do every day. So that's one part of what we're prioritizing. Another part of it is what we call user experience or quality of life. How using itslearning, how doing teaching and learning within a digital solution like itslearning feels good. And this represents a lot of high impact changes that make you smile, making it easier to use the systems. And it also includes improvement based on what you're telling us, your feedback on what you think we should be addressing. Kind of big or small problems that would make every day easier for you. And the last of these big rockets or big buckets or what you want to call them is about the tools that you use every day. So our goal is to give you the best platform on which to do teaching and learning. But we also know that you use a lot of different and other systems. And as I mentioned earlier, it's important for us to support you in using these tools. So this area concerns things like seamless integration with the productivity tools from Google and Microsoft. But it's also a bit about boring back-end work like supporting LTI 1.3 and LTI Advantage. Some of you might know what that is. Many of you don't know what it is. But what this does by focusing on this allows us and you to use the tools that you want to be using every day. That is not from itslearning, but from other partners, seamlessly into your workflows. And last but not least, it is also about not offering a learning platform, but also giving you the digital materials and assets and methods that you're using with your students and giving you seamless options to integrate this into your daily work. So you can say these are the high-level structures, high-level areas that we are prioritizing. Now, let's go into some details of what this actually means in terms of changes you can expect to see. So, and we'll start with some of these core tools and core workflows. And first of all, I want to mention the test tool. Now, the test tool is an important part of what we offer, a tool that gives you the option to create multiple choice tests, do quizzes, different types of tests inside itslearning. We have had this functionality for many years, but now we are just on the verge of releasing what we call the new test tool, which is a quicker, slicker, and 100% mobile test tool. And more importantly, maybe for some of you, it will allow you to create, share, and reuse tests, both with yourself, but also with colleagues who can collaborate on using these tests. Now, I know that many of you have heard about this for a while, but now we're in a position where actually quite a few of you is actually using this tool. Some of you might not have ever used other tools, and we are in progress of making this available to everybody. And more of you will see this tool as we get close to the summer and move on after the summer. A couple of things they will expect from this tool, in addition to being mobile friendly and shareable, is that it has better support for things like using images, audio, video in the answer alternatives, giving you and your students a much richer alternative when doing tests and creating tests. We are also making some changes to the way you can set up these tests and structure these tests and use them, like having anonymous assessment in the test tool, making it possible, particularly if you use open-ended answers, that whoever is correcting the test who do not know who submitted it. So full anonymity in the test, but also giving you more options during the test while it's happening, such as submitting ongoing tabs on behalf of students, having password protected tests, or if you discover a mistake in one of the questions, giving the option to correct these items a bit more flawlessly than what you can to do today. So, new test tool, if you're not already seeing it, you should expect to see it coming to your itslearning in the very near future. Now, another really core workflow of teaching and learning is about planning, right? And planning is about giving context, structure, and timeline to the teaching and learning activities. And we do have what we call a planner, and based on what you're telling us, it is one of the most important tools for you, which has been even more important now that you are not maybe seeing your students face to face every day. Having this option to give context and structure to your teaching is almost maybe a business critical, a very important support that we can offer. But you have also been telling us that it might be a bit too clunky to use. Some of you are saying that maybe this looks really powerful, but it might just be too hard to start getting to use it. The threshold is there, and also you'll be saying that maybe it doesn't really match the expectations that you have of a system such as itslearning. And of course, we are listening to you. And now we are in the progress of rolling this out. We actually have some customers using it, but this will also be available for you as a teacher after the summer. And the first step here is a visual update of the planner, making it much easier to use, reducing the number of clicks you have to do to perform actions, and reducing the number of options that might seem a bit confusing. But we're also providing a much more visually appealing and less cluttered overview, as you can see from these slides, making it basically easier on the eye. Small these delights that makes you smile, I hope. But also we're incorporating changes such as giving teachers and students a better overview of the progression straight from the plan. Yes, we do have powerful tools like the 360 reports that gives you good insight into your students. But also we want to bring this up to the surface into your day-to-day activities. So you can see how many have seen this specific item you want them to see, how many have done this task, and how far have I as a student progressed through the planner. It's important tools to give you a better overview of progression and how people are dealing with the plans. And also, growing in importance is the support for collaboration across courses. Many of you are working with your course or your subject, but also growingly, more and more, we see this in new curriculum, which is being rolled out across Europe, is this cross-curriculum, cross-course planning. And we do want to support that type of working, so that you're not just planning for your activities, but you plan this in collaboration with subject teachers who do teachers from different courses, and give you the options to collaborate and to plan across courses. So all of this is kind of short-term work that we are working on now, and you can expect to see. But as I mentioned, planning and the planner and the process of planning is a core process in teaching and learning. And we, of course, also want not to just give you a visual update and these small improvements, but give you even better tools on how to do your learning and teaching. Part of this is to extend our planner tool and our planner workflows with support for things like self-paced learning, individualization and personalization. We want to give you the options to give your students a more personalized learning experience. For example, by starting plans at different times, proceeding through these plans at their own pace and at their own progress as they start mastering the content and their understanding grows. And we're now researching and building better tools to help you give your students the support as they work through this material. And it also will include items such as differentiating between students. So not all students do not need to have the exact same plan, but you can make differences, personalization, both on a group level, but also individual level, to give you the tools that you need to support every student reach their full potential. So really excited about what's happening with the planner, and I do think you'll have an opportunity to learn more about that during the convention. The last thing I want to mention on the kind of core tools are some improvements that we're doing to the assignment process. Now, if you're using PDFs as part of the assignment process, you should know that it's already possible to do some annotation on it. But we are now expanding that with some options to actually draw on what has been submitted. And I'm just going to show you a very cheeky video about how that will work. So you can see now that actually, as a teacher, I'm now drawing on this very simple book report. Now, this is a bit of a silly video, yes, but it shows you what options you can do. Also, it allow you as a teacher to use PDFs as template in an assignment. So you can actually have an assignment, send to the students, and have them draw on this PDF to fill in forms and similar. But I also want to show you maybe a less cheeky example. And in this case, you've been using the assignment tool as a way to submit, let's say, scientific papers or larger pieces of work. And you can see here now how I use this same functionality to highlight items in the hand-in from the student, like pointing out that there are some maybe missing definitions, or there's a paragraph that needs to be rewritten. And I can then use the power of this all-in-one grader to give overall feedback, but point to the specific areas inside the document to draw attention to it. And this is one of the areas that when we present it to teachers, they always come up with lots of different scenarios how they can use this. And to be honest, I'm really looking forward to see how you are going to use this. All the great stories we hear about how this has made it easier for you to help your students in the assessment process. Okay, so moving on now to kind of this other big area, which was about these high impact changes to the tools that you use every day. And one of the tools that we know that you use every day is the rich text editor, basically the interface that you use to create rich content in assignments, in tests, in notes, in pages, etc. Now this is a core example of these tools that you use every day. And this has been very important for us to make both small and large improvements to this tool. And some of these improvements you might already have seen, like this option to use keyboard shortcuts in order to, let's start making lists or having special characters presented inside when you create content. So making things a bit faster for you. But also we have listened to what you've said, making it easier to work with images. Drag and drop, copy and paste, and actually, as you will see in this small video, make it much easier and faster for you to have images inside the content you are creating and working with it. And also for those of you who have been kind of using a rich text editor to create content and share, we'll also now be making sure that the image that you attach to, let's say, a piece of material now will sit with that material. It won't longer sit in just your web files, but it belongs to the element that you create. I mean, you share it and reuse it. The image will live together with this piece of this asset. And finally, we also make it easier to embed content, let's say from YouTube, etc. When you paste it, it works more flawless and it's easy for you to embed this rich content inside the tool. Another area, just illustrate some of the things we're doing, is improvements based on what you are telling us. It's really important for us not just to kind of sit down through our research and ideas, develop the platform, but listen to what you are telling us. And we're always doing that through many different channels. And I just wanted to show you 3 or 4 small examples of what we are doing based on your feedback. The first of these is the way that a small thing such as how names are being displayed across itslearning. Now, when itslearning was originally built, it was built let's say, to support a very informal way of presenting names, like friendly name, just using your first name when you see inside itslearning, or you just use that first name when you get a message from somebody else. That has been our way of supporting a more informal model, but it has been more and more clear for us that this is not appropriate in all settings and across all markets. So now what we want to make sure now is that to give you, as school administrators, the power to define how names, how people, particularly teachers' name, should be presented in itslearning, both when you receive a message from somebody, but also when you see your name presented on screen. Let's say if you demonstrate something on a video screen or back on a whiteboard. So, for instance, it will be possible to choose between Herr Schmidt or Johanna Schmidt at different ways of presenting your name. We do think that will make a small change, but it will make itslearning more adapted to whatever situation you're in, to make it more, more, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, better suited for your context. Another very important feedback from you has been that for those of you who use the calendar to keep track of your working day, you can see the events. What are the kind of moments of teaching that you're supposed to meet? But things like deadlines and homework for assignments, tasks, etc. have not been shown in the calendar. We are bringing that into the calendar so you can see them, so the calendar will give you a full picture of how your day looks like, which can also be very important once the day is more fragmented and people do times at different times and etc. So really pleased about that. So then there are some things that we're doing that might not be as important for you as a teacher, but has been clear message for us that those of you set up and manage itslearning, on particularly on bigger institutions across many schools, that is to give you more control over how itslearning behaves. One example is that what types of data is shown in a person profile and who could manage those data. Of course, itslearning is secure and we take care of privacy, but your needs might be slightly different. So we are giving you more control over what data is being shown, but also who might edit the data in a person profile. For instance, if you don't want to allow people to make changes, we are giving those options. And finally, we know that this process of managing users, user provisioning, etc., which many of you might be aware of, might not be granular enough. We know that some of you want to retain the option to create, manage, and edit users centrally at the school administration or the district administration, while it might be useful to have local administrators and schools to set up what can be allowed and not can be allowed. So we are now giving options where we retain this use administration centrally, but allowing schools and school admins to create, manage, and apply policies to the users on their school. Gives you some more flexibility in ways of how to control permissions, etc. All of this has been important for you, reported back to us through our ID portal, and we have also kind of seen that, yes, these are the things that is important for your core workflows and the way you experience itslearning. So we have prioritized those. Last area I want to touch upon when we talk about these small changes or the core user experience is accessibility. Accessibility is, of course, very important for us and has been that since the beginning. When we say that we want every student to be able to reach their full potential, we mean every student. Also those who have some sort of disabilities or challenges that might make use of technology slightly more different for them than others. And we are continuously improving that we can actually meet this goal of making every student, everybody, no matter who they are, what their background, to reach this potential. So we are taking specific actions here. So we are doing some technical improvements in the back end to better support devices like you see in the picture here, how to use screen readers, etc. But that is about how to use itslearning. Now, while I of course think itslearning is great and we are working to bring more content into it, it is you, our teachers, who bring itslearning to life. It is you who create content that is tailored to specific students. And we also know that it might not be easy for everybody to have a full understanding of how to best create materials that is accessible for all users. So this fall, we introduced an accessibility checker inside the rich text editor that allows you to check your content, get feedback, are there suggestions to how you can change what you're creating to better support, let's say, screen readers, etc. I do think that will be a valuable tool for teachers, particularly those who work with people who have some sort of disability. So then, I'll move on to talk about some of our integration with the other tools that you're using. And we know for those of you who have integrations, you use our integration with Google, many of you are. Integration with Google Calendar has been important. So one of the things that we are doing now is that if you use itslearning, you use Google tools, and you make use of the Google Calendar, we are giving you options to have a more tight integration between itslearning and the calendar. So in the back end, there will be a course, calendar, Google Calendar for every course, which will show what you expect from itslearning, the events, the tasks, etc. You open it, and then it seamlessly single signs you into itslearning in the context of this material, an assignment, etc. Seamlessly moving you between these systems so you can use the Google Calendar to keep track of everything in your life, but also easily take you into itslearning if that is where the day takes you. Another area which is important for us is that we do know that many of you use and appreciate the productivity tools from Microsoft Office. And many of you are also using Teams as a way to communicate, collaborate, and all of these real-time meetings. And we have seen how important this has been, having team meetings as our reality changed. So one of the things that you have asked of us is to come up with ways where you can combine the best of these two worlds, having this process support from itslearning, the things that go on across time, like planning, like assessing, like monitoring student progress, but also taking the benefit making the benefit of the real-time tools in Teams. So this is something we're now just about to roll out to some customers, this integration where we create a Microsoft team for each of your itslearning courses, having it synchronized, and offering options to see things like the planner, your course dashboard inside the context of Teams. So you can use that to communicate and collaborate in. This is our first version of this integration. We are gradually rolling it out, and we will be closely monitoring the feedback from our pilot customers. Is this the type of integration that's important for you? Will this solve your problems? And if not, how can you adjust and tweak this to make sure that it meets your problems? To kind of unleash this power of the learning platform together with the communication and collaborative tools of, let's say, Teams. So I'm really excited to see what wants this once we now have it out and start to get real feedback on it. Then maybe a bit of a boring slide, mentioning technology like 1.3 and LTI Advantage. But in essence, those of you who know what this is will probably smile now. But what this actually gives us is the tools, the framework, etc., to give you the option to use the tools that you are using at your institution closely, seamlessly embedded into itslearning. For example, if you have purchased a video repository or a tool to kind of maintain all the videos that you have purchased or you recorded, we can seamlessly integrate that into itslearning even better and have it used across itslearning in the rich text editor, for example. Or if you have assessment tools, we can seamlessly integrate them into itslearning. Have grades passed back between the tools and itslearning, work flawlessly. It gives us the opportunity to bring you more tools, but more importantly, it allows you to set up these tools for your teachers to work directly inside itslearning. If you have no idea what I'm talking about now, fine, be prepared to see some exciting things happening in the next few months. But if you're one of the people who was working on setting up these integrations, I'm pretty sure you'll be quite pleased about what we're doing here. Then, last thing I'll mention about integration is a nod back to what Steve was talking about in his presentation. We are now part of this Sanoma Learning, Sanoma family of companies, which puts us in the kind of fantastic position that we no longer are just a company offering a great learning platform, but we're also sitting around the same table as companies, organizations, and people who create digital assets, create digital materials. And if you look at Sanoma in general, they have content and methods which cover almost all subjects in many of the areas we operate in. And one thing which is really exciting for us, but also me personally, is now to have this option not just to offer a fantastic learning platform, but also fill it with methods, content, digital assets, both from our sister companies at Sanoma Learning, but also other publishers, to make sure that you have everything you need to do. Let's say in this broader classroom as service, everything you need to do, not just the platform, but also the content that is needed to make every student reach their full potential. So not a lot of specifics here now, but we are working in the product team, but also with the rest of Sanoma Learning to see how we can really bring the value of this out in your hands. So super excited about this. So that was what I wanted to talk about, highlights from the developments of this itslearning main platform. Now, before we end this, I also want to talk about some of the things that we're doing on the more mobile side, native side. Our itslearning main app, as we call it, the ones that you and your students are using on the go, but also the release of the new parent app that we have been working on. So if you first start with the main app, over the summer there's a few nice improvements that we are launching to you. One is better support for working with Google and Office 365 resources inside the app. We know that this has been a bit of a pain for you, so we are taking some actions to improve the way this works. Also mentioned this work about how teachers are being addressed. Just to show an example, that will of course also be reflected in the app, which is for many of you is the most important messaging tool, to make sure that these are well covered inside the app. But also, I said that we listen to your feedback, and if you look at ID portal and look at the kind of messages that you're sending us, it is that the most important thing we could do for the app is to make sure that we have a dark mode. So yes, you're getting a dark mode just over the summer, and you can see some example of how that looks like. So there you go. Then I also want to talk a bit about the itslearning parent app. The parent app is a new app we're working on. We have some customers and schools piloting at the moment that we intend to roll out across Europe across the autumn of 2021. The itslearning parent app is going to be the go-to place for information from parents. It will be a place where you as a parent can see upcoming work and homework for students. And also, depending on how your school configures this, be a good way for teachers to communicate with teachers and mentors and teachers to communicate with parents. And also an area for you to see feedback on your child's work. So I wanted kind of quickly to show you an insight how the app will work. So it's currently in pilot. We are getting a lot of good feedback from parents now on how to improve it, but just let me quickly show how it is working. In this demonstration, I have two children at two different schools. For each child, I can see the upcoming week plan divided into courses, which shows the assignments that I have due this week, the lesson plans, and my calendar events. And as you can see, I can tap on any assignment to go into it and see more details about the tasks that my children are supposed to be doing. The week view shows the current week, but I can also swap the view to show the next 7 days if I want to. And as you saw, I can easily swap between my children to see each week plan with a single tap. And again, I can see all the assignments and tasks that have been set for my child. The tasks show all current work for my child. Child's courses in one place. The view defaultly shows what is due today, tomorrow, but I also see overdue tasks and a task without no deadline, and also those tasks which have already been completed. And what this gives me, a good overview of what homework my child has to do and what's coming up. And lastly, I do have the option to do a deep dive into any of my children's courses. And you will see that in a short second. Here are the courses. I can do into it, and I can see a lot of details like who the teachers in this course are. I can see the week plan with upcoming tasks just for this course, the assessment record, and any grades my child has received, and the learning plans which is valid in my course. And if your school and your course uses this, you can see the learning objective progress report for that course. The next phase of our development app is also to allow messages from parents to teachers and to mentors. That's being built now as we speak. This is on one area we had a lot of feedback on, and basically the different schools, the different districts, the different school owners have different views on this. And we need to know that's important that we give schools, the individual schools within each municipality, control over parent messaging. So what we are planning to do is that each school can choose if messaging is turned on in the app, and if parents can just read messages, respond and send messages to teachers and mentors, or if they can initiate communication with all users at the school. We're also doing things like making it much easier for teachers to find and message parents, because at least at the beginning of the year, you might not know the names of the parents of the children in your class. So making that easier. On the flip side, making it easier for parents, as you can see here, to find out who the teachers are for the children and quickly message them. So a seamless way, flawless, easy way to communicate between teachers and students. We are planning to release the first and finished version of this app to all European customers this autumn. So that's more or less what I had to show you in terms of the roadmap. But as I said in the beginning, our roadmap is not something that is set in stone for a long time. Our roadmap is dynamic, it is flexible, and we adapt to what you're saying to us and what we are, how the changes in the overall situation around us. If you want to keep track on the overall roadmap, we do have a live version of the roadmap. Not that many details, but you can see exactly what we're working on. Keep up to date on the status and changes on the roadmap. You can see the address here. You can see the things that we are researching, kind of what our long-term plans are. You can see the things that are in development, which means that we are actively working on it, either the building of it or piloting it with specific customers ready to be released for all. But you can also see what has been released already in the past. If you missed something or you're curious about what we have done, you can also go here and see the latest things that has been recently released to support you in your work. I also mentioned that it's important for us to listen to your feedback, and one of the ways we do have for that is what we call the itslearning ideas portal, which is in essence a community of you, our users, who were signed up to not just give us ideas and suggestions, but also discuss with other users of this learning community, other teachers and other administrators, and what are the most important things. You can see some examples here, as by far the top most voted area on the ID portal has been the dark mode for the native app. So that is also one thing we're doing. This is a good way for you to give us input on what you think, not just suggest new ideas, but also discuss. We are monitoring this actively, and of course, there's no way for us to develop all of the ideas which is submitted here, but it's an important channel for us to understand what is important for you. So if you're not using it, have a look. There's quick and easy to sign up, and it gives you an opportunity to lift your voice into what we are doing. So that was in essence what I wanted to present to you. Now I would also like to see if there are any questions and answers that we should be looking into.
Thank you, Lars. I'm going to take over from this part, Naj speaking. So we actually got quite some questions here. So the first one is, will the new test tool include hotspots?
Yes.
Okay.
Or a version of it, I would say. But yes, definitely, that's an important thing that needs to be covered.
Okay, perfect. Will test be anonymous for the teachers all the way to the assessment?
So that's a good question. If you just look at the test tool, that will behave similar to the way assignment works. So we are duplicating that effort. That being said, one of the things we are doing that I did not talk about is a process that for specific tools inside itslearning that will be completely anonymous, let's say forever. So there will be no way for a teacher to actually see who made what submission. This is something that's kind of, it won't fit in all purposes, or it won't fit in all contexts, but we do know that in some cases having this complete anonymity will be important. So that is something we're also building. That's, yeah.
Okay. Next question is about Microsoft Teams. Someone is asking, will it be possible to connect or to integrate an existing Teams into the team plugin in itslearning? So this way it's a kind of deep integration.
What our intent is to make sure that we have a team for every single course that you have inside itslearning. I'm not 100% certain about that answer, but if you can forward it to me, I'll make sure to give a good answer to the person who asked.
That will be done. Next, the better integration option with third-party tools will solve the problem. For example, third-party cookies that we experience when using selected browser systems such as Firefox. Okay.
Yeah, I think I know what this refers to. So I'm not sure I can say no 100% that this will solve that issue on itself. But what we are doing is, in addition to kind of having a support for LTI 1.3 and LTI Advantage, is also to change the way applications are configured and set up. And we do think that in the space between what we are doing and what our third parties are doing, there should be good ways of being able to address it.
Okay, perfect. Do you have plans to improve personalization of notification?
Personalization notification. Now, that's a good question, and it is actually one of the areas we get a lot of feedback on. I do think that this is something we will be working on in the long term, but it is not, as you can see from the high levels, it is not a priority right now. But your feedback to us is quite clear on this. Having more options to personalize not only what notifications you get, but how it's delivered to you is important for you. Unfortunately, not in the very short term, but it is high on our radar, and we keep monitoring it and how people are saying, what people are saying about it.
Will the immersive reader appear in other tools in the future?
It's difficult to predict, particularly about the future. But again, this is also one of the areas we are monitoring and collecting feedback. What we have done, and we know has been well received, is that we have added it to some of the most used tools. I think what I will say to that is, we'll see. We'll see what you tell us, we'll see how it's being used, and then we will see how to add it. If you have specific areas where you think this would be useful, please go to ID's portal, post it there, and then we can keep track of it. And we can also, it will be one of the ways for us to monitor how many people think it is important and which tools this could be useful to have it in.
Okay. Now we switch for the itslearning library. Someone is asking, is it possible to have alphabetical order document in the media library? So I think they mean like sorting things from A to Z though.
Well, it is not something that we have actively planned for now, but I do understand why it's an important question. And again, with the danger of repeating myself, post it to ID portal, keep a record of it. I do think that the next time we are working on the specifics of the library, that could be one improvement that we were looking to make. But we are not planning any major changes to the library over this roadmap period.
Okay. Will the new app have the option to upload video directly from your phone? iOS or Android, both?
This is also one of the areas where we get feedback on, and having better options to uploading or bringing items from your device. It is something we're looking at. It will not be part of the version we are releasing this summer, but it's one of the things that we are discussing for the future roadmap of the apps after the summer.
So here we got an interesting question still about notification. So we're back at this topic. Why is notification not prioritized when you talk about individual learning?
Well, that's a big question. I'm not sure I can go into all the details, but of course, one of the things that is a task for the product team, the people who are working with this, is making difficult decisions on what to prioritize. As I said, personalization of notification is important, but some of the feedback you have given us has made it clear that making sure that the planning process is personalized, individualized, that is overall, at least the way we have seen this and what we have received from you, is more important than some of other areas. To be honest, there are many things that I would like to see change. We have to make some priorities, and right now, that's our priority. But as I said, the feedback is clear. We know that this is something you want. And that is something we're taking seriously when we're making prioritizations moving ahead.
Do you have any plans regarding the synchronization between master courses and courses?
Yes, we do have plans for that. I have not mentioned it here. It is not something on the very short-term roadmap, but this is one of the areas that we are looking into. You would see that in a more research stage. So I can't give a timeline on those things, but it is something we are looking into, and we do have some concepts that we are investigating.
Okay. Will it be possible to change colors on the course card or even use pictures instead of your colors?
Many detailed questions, no. We are not planning any changes on that short term. But again, so for these specific types of questions and requests, I strongly encourage the use of the default. That's a good place for you to post these types of suggestions.
Okay, and my bad, I've skipped an important question from probably a user. Will the copy issue be solved? The fact that you cannot copy plans, template, etc. more than once.
That is also one of the things that we are working on. I don't see that. I don't see a short-term release of it, but it is again part of this concept discussion I was talking about. We know that this, for some of you, this is an issue, and we want to be solving it. So we have some conceptual discussions ongoing around it.
And I think that's it for the moment. I don't have further questions. Any further questions? You still have a few seconds to ask your question. Now it's your chance. Yeah, I think, yeah, well, maybe we give you some more extra second. Oh, here we go. Will it be possible to take single question out of a plan and copy it to another? Just copy a single question from one plan to another.
To be honest, I'm not entirely sure I understand the question.
Yeah. Can you maybe give us a little bit more details? Not in a plan. Okay, it's not in a plan, but in a test. A question from a test.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I understand. Not initially, but one of the things we are looking into is how questions can be exported and imported using standards. And that is one of the things that we'll be looking at as soon as we have had this available to all of you and we get your feedback. That can help us prioritize what are the next steps we'll be taking.
Okay. So no more questions. Yeah. So thank you from one of the attendees. He thanks you.
Thank you all for listening. Really happy to get your questions, and do use the ID portal. We're looking at it. I'm looking at it. So it's a fantastic source for feedback to us. Thank you all.